you, but after the FB Live.
So, which camera am I talking to, by the way? Hey guys, yeah, pretty much on time. Sorry, 12 minutes late, but we
Sorry,
are
guys.
right here.
Sorry.
No, it's just that Amish is here, and I got carried away. I was chatting with him, and there were so many things to discuss that we just lost track of time a bit. But not too bad, just 12 minutes late, and here we are. Super excited that Amish is here with us.
Thank you.
He's taken the time out from promoting his new book, which is non-fiction, and he's going to do the masterclass. But before we do the masterclass, because he's taken time out from his book promotions and he's come here, I do want to talk about his new book, which is a non-fiction. Coming from you, Amish, you fictionalized our mythology, so to say, something that you think cannot be changed and people literally kill each other for. You have fictionalized that, given it a different flavor, and that person now comes with a non-fiction. So what is it? What made you write Immortal India?
I think primarily my passion for this great land of ours. Most of my fiction you'll also find is actually driven by things that I feel passionately about India. I'm a deeply patriotic person, and to me, true positive patriotism means that we celebrate the things that need celebrating and question the things that need questioning, because that's the only way the country can improve. But the foundation of it has to be deep, abiding love for the country and for this land of ours. So I'm very passionate about issues. Those things come out in my fiction books as well. Often my philosophies are woven into the stories. So the story often are a wrapper for the philosophies that I want to convey.
Well,
Immortal India is like step one, the philosophy straight up.
Yeah, actually, you read your books, be it Maluha, you read it because you love the characters you've made and the stories you're telling. But when I read Immortal India, that's one thing I realized, that this thread is actually there, and like you said, it's wrapped up in beautifully in fiction, but here it's out there. I have to say that I really enjoyed the book. I think I get to know Amish, the person, a bit from this book. Also, like you said, we're all patriotic. We all love our country, and we all want to do a lot of things for the country. But there's never such a clear thought about it. It's amazing when I read this book how you have a very clear vision of what should be your path, I would say. Maybe I kind of envy you that in a certain way, because it's amazing to have that clear vision, that you've understood what is it that is needed according to you, because everybody can have different versions of it, and it's welcome. But you found, I would say, you've kind of found your path in that sort of a zone, and it was so interesting to hear your thoughts on various topics. And the thing that really caught on to me was what you spoke about, our education system. It was so relevant today. I mean, most of your topics are very, very relevant. That was one of the things that really got on to me. And I think what you're talking about, maybe our children might not be the generation that will gain, but what you're talking about is so important. And the question I would want to ask you is, how do you, me, and people like us translate that vision?
If you're asking specifically about the education system, this is something that is an area of passion for me. I've spoken of it very often. I think one of the problems with our education system is actually it's still colonized. We still haven't decolonized our education system. It still is a very European system. How do you do that without
people saying you're changing the text and it
turns
into a mayhem?
Why can't we change? My only thing is that I've got nothing against the West. There are a lot of good things in the West.
Absolutely.
It has been a very successful civilization for 300 years. Absolutely. We must learn from it. But to paraphrase Mahatma Gandhi, that we should keep the windows and doors of our house open and let the winds of all foreign cultures come in and learn from it, but our roots should be secure. And we should remain rooted to our own land. And that's one of the things I feel, that in our education system, we don't teach our own stories first, our own knowledge first. We jump straight into Western stuff. So for example, if you are learning, I'm a maths graduate. I graduated in mathematics.
Wow. The moment I hear maths, I start shivering. I see numbers, I start shivering.
It's a beautiful subject. As Galileo said,
okay.
it's the language in which God wrote the universe.
Yeah, well, one thing is there, that there is at least nobody can argue with maths. There's only one answer. You can't argue with it.
But you see, in graduate level maths, we'll learn about Euclid, we'll learn about Pythagoras, but we learn nothing about Bhaskaracharya, we learn nothing about Bodhayana, we learn nothing about Aryabhatta, or just a few lines about Aryabhatta, because Aryabhatta is too big to ignore. When you see medicine, they teach only Hippocrates. They teach nothing about Shushruta. They teach nothing about Charak. In all our subjects, when we are speaking of literature, I've got nothing against Shakespeare. Teach them, but first start with Thiruvalluvar, start with Shudraka, start with Mirza Ghalib, start with Kalidasa. Learn our own stories first, and then explore Western stuff. Our education system teaches nothing about our own achievements, our own heroes, our own knowledge. And so what ends up happening is, the more educated an Indian is, the more cut off he is from Indian roots.
What the roots are. Yeah.
That to me, I think, is a very serious problem.
So you see, somewhere I feel that when I read Meluha, when I look at Lord Shiva, the way you've written about him, I discover him, which is my roots in a certain way. So maybe what you would say is that by writing these stories, you're kind of getting us in touch with our roots.
Through my books, I try and speak of a culture that I'm intensely proud of, that I think we can learn a lot from. And there are very positive, liberal, modern messages hidden in our ancient culture. But unfortunately, we don't know about it, in the modern day. And I always say that if we want to make an impact in modern India and speak modern liberal messages, won't it be much more effective to speak of Indian heroes rather than Western heroes?
Absolutely. Like why don't we know about it?
I don't know. Like you say, we have to fight for women's rights, or for LGBT rights, or freedom of expression. We can make all these arguments using our ancient culture. That obviously has a much higher chance of success as compared to saying, here's an American, here's a British, here's a French guy, listen to him. Because most Indians will say, Marusu boss, why should I listen to him? I'll listen to him. So that's the point one is trying to make. There are good messages in our ancient culture, in our ancient literature, in our ancient scriptures.
So we just need you to write a lot more and faster. That just means that. But like you mentioned about various rights, women's rights that you're talking about, and in your Immortal India, you've given us the stories and the examples of how strong, how free the women used to be, so to say, how strong they were and how much they contributed to the society. They were teachers, they were rulers, they were priests. So they were there in every, they were literally equal. So when you talk about equality, we actually had that in our culture, more than any other culture in that sense, if you go to see.
It's there were some cultures which had equality, some cultures which didn't. But our culture certainly had it in ancient times.
We have forgotten it.
We've forgotten it. And we had, and I'm not just talking about in our stories, but even in the historical age. So we had, for example, the Kakadiya, empire. It was a Shudra empire in peninsular India, long time back, nearly 800-900 years ago. One of the greatest rulers was a woman called Rudrama Devi. She used to lead her army into battle. Okay, and
is that the fascination of these warrior princesses?
And we don't know anything. We don't know anything about them. These great heroes have not been taught to us. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is a conversation between Maharishi Yajnavalkya and Maharishika Maitreyi, a woman. The greatest debate that India has seen in the last 2000 years between the debate between Shankaracharya ji and Madan Mohan Bhatt ji, it was adjudicated, the judge was Bhatt ji's wife. Matlab, you can imagine the judge has to be of such high quality that even the Shankaracharya would accept her decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that was what India was like. But we don't know any of this. We are not taught any of this, so we don't see them as role models.
So that another thing that about your books that was fascinating for me as a woman. You can have strong women, you can have emotionally and but what you did was you see, there were 2-3 versions of it. When you saw the television series or what most of the time people talk about where Ramayana and Mahabharata were concerned, there were women who were literally, I would say, becharis. And it's not something a woman likes to be told. Like an independent woman like me does not want to be kind of, I would want a role model which was not so like, you know, bechari. So what fascinated me was that here in your books came these women who were so strong mentally, physically, and it was like, wow, I love these women. I want to, I can identify with them, and this is what I want to see. And it was amazing the way you had turned it all around on your head. So for me, that was one thing I said, whenever I meet Amish, I want to ask him, how did you do this? But I read Immortal India before that, and you have kind of answered that in your thing, that this is how it came from. The women were strong. But what is this fascination with these warrior women, warrior princes that you have? And it's really not just emotionally strong, but physical strength.
In my fiction
Yes,
books.
I mean, look at Sita cover. I have it here. Just look at this cover. I mean, it's fantastic.
This is actually her kidnap scene. Okay,
it's amazing.
So
I mean, the muscles and that whole posture.
And we see front and back. She's been attacked by 100 soldiers, by 100 Lankan soldiers. But she's an alpha female, right? Even if she's outnumbered 100 to 1, there's no defensiveness in her. She will charge. She will attack. She might go down fighting,
but she'll attack.
She will attack. She'll not be defensive, and she has that that toughness and aggression.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everywhere on all, sorry to say, but in all our Insta pages and everywhere the pictures come out, thin is not in, strong is in, and etc., etc. But here it is, Indian woman, thin is not in, strong is in. Look at how strong and beautiful this cover was. This cover was fantastic.
Thank you.
And this is how your women are. And that, I have to say thank you from the my generation of women, that thank you for portraying them like that, because, you know, it just gives us hope that we don't have to be just these little wilting lilies all the time, and it's great. So, like I said, strong women characters. From there, I want to take you to characterization. Obviously, there's a huge amount of thought that goes in, because you are picking up characters that we are all really familiar with. So, one would think that, my God, so easy, he's picking up the same characters. But you really turn them around and you're giving them so many dimensions that we couldn't even imagine. So obviously there's a lot of work that goes on in characterization. And in our master class, we've done plotting before this, and our budding writers, I'm sure, are going to be very, very eager to know, how do you do characterization? There has to be some sort of a math to it, maybe.
You know, I think I should answer this by talking about how I wrote my first book, Immortal Melua.
Yeah.
That's the first piece of fiction I'd ever written in my life. Before that, I did nothing, absolutely nothing, no fiction.
I mean, not even an article?
No, nothing. No, an article would be non-fiction, but I didn't know fiction ever before Immortal Melua. So when I decided that I'm going to write this book, the biggest problem, of course, was I had no idea how to write a book. So I'd read these various self-help books, you know, which had advice on how a book should be. No, seriously, on how a book should be written.
Did they help?
No. If self-help books work,
the self-help books don't, but our masterclass helps.
If self-help books work, then they would stop selling, no, because you won't need them anymore. Okay. So they had a standard algo on how you should write a book. So you know that you should have a plot points, and and you should be disciplined. And one of the things was to write character sketches, so that the character becomes real in your mind. And I'd actually written character sketches for all the characters of the Shiva trilogy. And there's one thing that I've spoken often of, that when I actually started writing the story, none of the characters were actually following their character sketch, except for Lord Shiva.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. So, and I was struggling especially with this one character, who the character sketch was that he was supposed to be this very happy, jovial, fun, relaxed person.
Who's this guy?
And you'll guess, but he ended up, the way he was coming in the books, he was very tormented, very sad, really struggling with life. And those days I wasn't the kind of guy who used to cry too much, okay, but I would think about this character and I would start crying, okay, and Lord Ganesh, obviously.
Yeah, I thought his man.
And I was struggling, and I was trying desperately to change his fate in the book. And no matter what I tried, it was seeming like a force fit. It just wasn't working. Yeah. And essentially, I got so frustrated that I actually stopped writing the book. And then I got an insight later. It was my wife who gave me that insight, that you have to realize that actually these characters live in a parallel universe. They have a life of their own, and you as an author have no control over them. You have no control over that world. You have no control over the characters. Do not have the arrogance of thinking that you have created them, so you are like God in their world and you can decide how things will go. So there's this line which she'd read somewhere, which she'd quoted to me, that don't approach the book with the arrogance of a creator. Approach it instead with the humility of a witness, that you've been given the privilege of entering that parallel universe and recording what you see. You're not in control. So if someone is supposed to die, they will die. Someone is supposed to be tormented, they will be tormented. You can't do anything about it. Discover them. Don't try and create them, just discover them. So that's how I write. That's how I write all my books, all my fiction books. So for me,
if we have to tell our budding writers, you would say that everybody has a different way of characterizing.
Of course.
And this is
my way is this: one key word, surrender. Just surrender. The ancient Greeks used to say that genius is not something that exists within you. Genius is like a divine creature which exists outside of you, and your task as an artist is to help your genius to help you. Okay, so which means that open yourself up to that blessing, let it flow, don't try and control it, and honor that blessing. If you start dishonoring that blessing, it will stop.
Okay.
So I genuinely believe my blessings are my stories are the blessings of Lord Shiva. So my task is to honor that blessing. Just write the way it comes to me. Don't try and control it. I genuinely discover the characters. So there are times when I get shocked, कि अबे ये कैसे हो गया? How can this character behave this way? But I've just learned to just trust the flow. I just go with it.
And so what you're saying is that you just go with the flow, and it all kind of
it just comes together.
Itself up
it comes together.
neatly.
It comes together.
That little bow.
Yeah, it just comes together. And like there are things which I just, there are times when I'm writing a story and I just know that
Listen, he's not
character.
sharing something with us.
No, I'm serious.
What is the secret?
I don't have this flow chart and all at home. Nothing. I actually just write and it just flows the way it comes to me and I just write it down. There are times when I can't explain why a character has done this, but I'm just sure that this is the way it happened.
Okay.
And I've learned to just trust that instinct and it'll get tied up.
So what you would say
So the point
is
I'm trying to make is, if you're an author, trust the blessing. Just trust it, go with your instincts, don't try and control it.
So basically you're saying somewhere believe in that world,
Yeah,
surrender to that world,
Surrender to
and
that
it'll all unfold.
yes. And you can't control the blessings. There may be, there are days when the story doesn't flow for me, so it's cool. I don't write on that day. And I'll start every morning in my writing phase. But it's like I said, you have to help your genius to help you. So which means that how can you write a book if you are watching a movie or doing something else? So you have to sit on your desk at the laptop and at least attempt to write.
And feel the frustration.
No, don't get frustrated. If it doesn't flow, it's okay. Shut the laptop, pick up a book, read that,
This is sounding
start
not
again,
at all human.
start again. No, listen, it is the easiest thing to do. Okay,
That's what
okay,
you
put it
say,
this way.
how?
No, put it this way. You've seen those matadors, right? When they play with the bulls. There's one way of fighting a bull where you just fight it. You catch the horns and you're desperately trying to struggle. It's the most difficult thing to do. Or the other way is you just play with the bull. You've got the cloth and you just lead the bull.
So you play with the characters. Let them
let it just
inhabit
flow.
your.
Let it flow, and live in, and this is especially true of fantasy. Most fantasy writers, I've met many fantasy writers both here and abroad. Most of them will tell you actually they write only what is in their books is only maybe 10, 15, 20% at max of what they actually see, because we see an entire universe.
Absolutely.
We feel the character, we feel the emotions of the characters, we can see them, we can hear them, but we can't write everything down because then it's a 1500 page novel.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So
Or
that's
10
too long.
books.
Yeah, that's too long. So you have to edit it.
And sometimes the last book doesn't come out on time.
Yeah. So the thing is, you just trust that instinct, discover that world, and then write a bit of
So
it.
we would say this is what you would. My interpretation of this would be, correct me if I'm wrong, is for fantasy writers especially, where you are in that sense making me as a reader go into a world that you have created. So it can't be just because you have, okay, I think this is the world and this is how it should be. But it should be a world that you see in your mind's eye. You can inhabit it in your head. You can believe in it so completely that you're living it actually.
Only when it is real for you as an author will it be real for the reader.
And that's when the characters will fall into
So,
place.
for example, I have my own interpretation of the Indus Valley script. I don't explain it anywhere, but most of my hardcore readers have, because I've left clues at various places, they decode it. So these are things which makes the world real for me. Right. So you as an author have to find that world as real. Only then will the reader find it as real.
So then, so that means in your world, in your imagination, obviously there are really strong women who have influenced you. And that's why your female characters are so strong. And I keep coming back to female characters is because, you have strong women characters in various stories that you read, but more so because you're making stories out of Indian mythology. And the so-called view of Indian mythology is, that Bechari Sita, that little woman there, kind of that sort of a zone. And you suddenly turn them into these warriors, and which I can identify with, because I feel that somewhere it's there in me. But why don't I feel and identify with this poor little woman kind of a zone, but I can identify with this. So that means, and I'm an Indian woman, so obviously there is this woman in me. So suddenly I can identify with what you're writing, and I really want you to tell me about this, is because I keep bringing it back, is because today we are having those debates and we are talking about women's rights, how women are being treated. As a mother of a boy, how do I bring him up to respect women? And it's not in that there is a whole theory. It's not about opening the door for the women. I do enjoy it when it is opened for me, but that's not what I want as chivalry, so to say. So what is it that I really need to teach my boy? And these are the characters that give me some sort of a insight into what Indian women can be. So can we talk more about your influences in these characters that you're bringing out?
I always believe that one of the best ways for people to learn is through role models, through archetypes. And if we speak of, there are many role models that we have in India, and if we speak of those role models, then we can have an impact, both on men and women. The impression of the Ramayana in modern India is based largely on a 1980s television serial. But there are other versions of the Ramayana which sadly we are not aware of. Like I said, our education system teaches nothing. So there is a version of the Ramayana called the Adbhut Ramayana, which is also credited to Valmiki ji, who was the writer of the original Ramayana, in which there are two Ravans. The main Ravan is the elder Ravan, who was killed by Sita Ma, not by Lord Ram, by Sita Ma. Okay, and this is an ancient version. This is an ancient version.
Did you guys know this?
The Adbhut Ramayana has this lovely line. You know that famous line from the Mahabharata, right? Yada yada dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. It's Lord Krishna saying that whenever dharma is in decline or dharma rises, I will come.
Right.
I will save you. There's a different version of that in the Adbhut Ramayana. Yada yada dharmasya glanir bhavati suvrata abhyuthanam adharmasya tada prakruti sambhava. That whenever dharma is in decline or adharma rises, the sacred feminine will incarnate. Think of the beauty of this line. We don't know this. It says she will defend dharma, she will protect us. I actually use this in the, I quote this in the beginning of Sita. These are there as a part of our ancient culture, but we don't teach any of it. So we don't have the role models.
We don't teach them because why? Is it not written in a language that we can understand? So maybe someone like you needs to bring it out a little more, and there must be others who read that and know about it, and they've never probably translated it.
I think the translations are there. I think what's happened is one is of course our education system, because we teach nothing of this. And what's also
if
happened,
I want to go beyond the education system, fine, we can keep blaming the education system and everything, but you know what, fine, we know that this is lacking, let's move on with it. What are we going to do about it?
What we can do, fortunately all these texts are available, and they're all obviously not copyrighted, so they're all there on the web Translations are available.
Really?
Yeah, they are.
I did
They
not
are.
know this.
They are. And all we need to do is read. And all we need to do is speak of it. Unfortunately, we don't, speak of it enough. Which is why I guess maybe the beauty of this knowledge has been lost.
I think on Sonali's masterclass, I think let's do one thing. Let's have a reading list, Amish's reading list. And I think let us all kind of see how much of that reading list we can achieve, which will be other than the book that we do in this thing. Let's all just take that up and see how much of this reading list we can achieve, and maybe have discussions on that, and maybe you could come again and kind of do certain discussions on it, because this is, every time I do this masterclass with somebody or have a chat with authors, creative minds, you always inspire me, and I always come up with one idea. And I think this is a great idea. I think we should follow this up. And also I realize that every time I come up with an idea, at this rate, Sonali's book club is going to take 24 hours of my time. I'm going to have time for nothing else but this.
But reading is one of the best ways to spend 24 hours. I genuinely believe that. Best habit to have.
But I think I really want that reading list, and I am going to put it up on Sonali's book club. And I think let's try and see how much of it we can kind of read upon. And sometime in future, I am hoping that you'll give us some more time. And let's see, and let's have the readers come in to do a live chat about these various things from that reading list.
On that note, let me tell you another line, which is actually very inspiring. We're talking about transgender rights now. Listen to this line. Purush napunsak nari, va jeeva charachar koi, sarva bhava bhaja kapat taji, mohi param priya soy. That is, any man, any transgender, any woman, any living being, which means any plant, any animal. If you give up deceit, love each other and come to me, you are my dearest people. Guess who said this?
Who?
Guess.
Please tell me.
Lord Ram. In the Ramayana. Now think of the power of this statement.
Can you please tell it?
The power of this statement. Lord Ram said this. Any man, any woman, any transgender, any living being, no differentiation, no caste, religion, nothing, no differentiation. You give up deceit, love each other, come to me, you are my dearest people. Again, this is such beautiful stuff. We don't know it.
And it is so simple. And
we don't know it. We don't know it.
So
we need to speak of this stuff. We need to speak of this stuff. Yeah.
So when do I get the reading list?
Let me finish my tour.
No, we can't wait for that long. While you're on tour, while you're traveling, you can just jot it down. And I'm sure somebody from your office can give it to us. And we'll put it up on the book club. And because this is going to take some time, so we will keep discussing it between ourselves. And I think once you finish your book tour, and once you are a bit more easy with your time, we will come back and discuss the reading list that you've given us. And we'll do that a few months down the line, but because I'm sure we will need that much time to kind of, all of us will pick up something out of that reading list and see what is it that we can come back and discuss. I think that could be the beginning that you're talking about, where you say that instead of waiting for the entire education system to change, maybe we should start educating ourselves.
And speak of it.
Yeah.
And speak of it to 10 others.
Yeah, we'll have small world. We'll just do it with our book club, and whoever gets it, it's lovely. Let's try and let's start. Yeah?
Fantastic.
So
I love it.
It was great having you, and all the best for Immortal India, guys. It's a non-fiction from Amish, but definitely, if you want to know more about him, you really need to read this book. I felt like I really got to know him after reading this book. Amazing views, amazing viewpoints, and something so simple and something so believable. And everything that he talks about comes from a place which has been researched, so to say, or read about, or is there in our past. And that's why so much more identifiable. I think it's a must read. Thank you, Amish.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for doing the masterclass. And we have questions? Okay, sorry. Sorry, guys. I was so excited, Denise. I forgot about your questions. Okay. So, oh my God, we have a lot of questions. I have hogged up all your time, and I'm sure all are. Wow. Danish, you have always been really, really prompt. So now let's see this. Okay, glad to be back here. See, branching out into a different genre. You write strong female characters in your books. And so Danish says, hi Amish, glad to see you
Hi,
branching
Danish,
out
how are you?
into a different genre. You write strong female characters in your books and speak of being proud of women from India's past, seeing them also as role models. Don't you think there needs to be more of a focus within our education to bring this to the forefront? Also, do you think being appreciative of our past culture equates with the nationalism?
Good question, Danish. Firstly, yes, we've spoken of you know, the education system already.
Absolutely.
We spoke quite a lot. In terms of patriotism, you know, in fact, actually, I've written an article on that in this, where I speak of what I believe is positive patriotism.
Absolutely.
Where I believe the foundation of you know, has to be love for the country. You know, because a country is not built by those who hate it. It is built on the shoulders of those who love it.
Love it.
But if we want the country to improve, then we have to speak of things that need improvement. Unless we speak of it, how will things improve? And you know, like our parents give us feedback, right? At times, you know, because they want us to improve, not because they hate us.
Right.
You know, so if the foundation is of love, you know, then obviously, you know, the what you want is for the country to improve.
It's not a criticism, it's more like a feedback, is how you should be taking it.
Unless we speak of things, how will things improve?
Right.
And the way I also feel about what I mean by positive patriotism, that anyone who has the soil of Mother India in his genes and his bones is one of us. And that's the way I see it. But at the end of it, I have to say, I am extremely patriotic. I say it with pride, Bharat Mata ki jai. I am very, very proud of this country. I am proud of our great culture. And you know, if all of us put our shoulder to the wheel, we will be the great country that we are capable of becoming, and that we were for most of human history. We've had a bad few hundred years. That can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
We have to revive it. We have to revive this great land of ours.
Danish has another question for you. Also, writing on historical aspects versus writing on mythology. How much research goes into it all? Which one is tougher and why?
Look, anything that you write, I believe that to be a good writer, you must first be a good reader. I strongly believe that. My rough rule of ratio is, for every page that I write, I must read at least 100 pages. So I read a lot. Every waking moment I read at least 5-6 books per month.
Wow.
I've been reading at that pace for decades. And it may not necessarily be linked to a book that I want to write. I just like knowledge.
It's just information.
I just like knowledge, and it goes somewhere in the back of the mind. You know,
So tell me, do you think history is also actually mythology?
You know, our ancients, and not just in India, ancients across the world used to say there's only one subject which can lay a claim to absolute truth, and that is mathematics. No other subject can lay a claim to absolute truth. It's all relative. It's all a matter of perception.
So when they say that history is written by the victor.
Yeah, it's true.
So that means that is also mythology.
It is true. It's just that mythology does not claim absolute truth. It says this is one version of the truth. History makes a claim for absolute truth, but even history can't claim the truth. Even theoretical physics can't claim absolute truth. Everything is guided by the bias of the observer. There is no absolute truth. There is no absolute truth.
Yeah. Okay. Anshul, thank you, ma'am, for all these. I'm a budding writer, and it's very helpful for me. Thank you, Anshul.
Thank you,
I love
Anshul.
this feedback.
All the best. And we're looking forward to your book coming out, and hopefully we'll be in line for your autograph one day.
Absolutely. That would be fabulous. Hello, Amish sir and Sonali ma'am. My question is, what is the difference in the way of approach while writing a fiction and a non-fiction?
What's his name?
This is Madhu.
Madhu.
Who also says that I hope you would reply, sir. So you must reply to her.
Okay, Madhu, non-fiction, the way I see it, is essentially you have a hypothesis, you have a case you want to build, and the entire book or the article is about trying to build that case in a logical, rational way.
Okay.
Like you want to build a case that freedom of expression is the most Indian of values. You want to build that case. So then what are the points that you can use to build that case?
Okay.
That's how non-fiction is a much more left brain, logic driven activity.
Absolutely.
Fiction is a much more right brain, intuitive activity, at least for me.
Okay.
Just let the story, like I was saying earlier, just let the story flow. Don't try and control it. Let the instinct guide you. Let Lord Shiva, I'm a believer in Lord Shiva, whichever god you worship, I just let Lord Shiva, guide me, and I'm just a channel. That's the way fiction is.
So how is your non-fiction, when you sat about getting this book, how was it different?
It's actually much easier to write non-fiction, because actually it's just a set of arguments and debating points that I want to get across. Whereas fiction, it's
you need
not
to inhabit it, live it.
Exactly, and it's not in my control. I might sit down to write.
It's also not that emotional.
Yeah.
And so not that exhausting, probably.
So fiction, for example, in Oath of the Vayuputras, when Lady Sati died, I couldn't do anything for 2 days. I was crying when I wrote that scene, and I was so depressed I couldn't do anything for 2 days because I was feeling that the emotion so much. That doesn't happen when you're writing non-fiction, because it's just a set of logical points. Yeah.
Okay. What is Aishwarya writes, hi, you say that story around each character comes to you, but how do you ensure that each character's graph is tied together so you don't leave the reader hanging at the end? Is there some graph that you create even if it is a broad outline?
No, I don't create any graph. I don't create an outline. It's all in the head. I'm serious, it's all in the head. And the thing with fiction, it has to be like real life.
So you have no notes or anything?
No, I don't. I just let it flow.
How many books in Ramchandra series?
5.
So you write them so nice, all in your head?
Yeah, it's all in my head. Yeah. But the thing is that fiction is a bit like real life. Not every loop will be tied up. There may be some loops that are just left open-ended. It's like real life, yeah. And some loops actually get
tied up in.
Not everything is. Not everything
I'm
is.
going to revisit these books and find all.
If I go back and
so we have a reading list, and then we have to go and find all the untied loops in Maluha.
But some do get tied up. It's the way the story emerges. But it's like real life. Just let it flow and just discover it as a writer.
Okay, so Aishwarya, I hope you've got your answer. Okay. I have to ask you this.
Okay.
Ravi Subramanian will ask you this.
I'm not answering Ravi.
Is there a reason why the color of Amish's shirt matches the cover of the book?
Oh wow, okay, there you go.
Ravi, I love your question. Fantastic. Please answer.
It's what you call subliminal messaging.
Ravi, you got to do this.
Good question.
Yeah. And any more questions? Or can we end it? Time for another coffee.
Time for another coffee.
Yeah.
But thank you. I had great fun. Thank you guys for the wonderful questions. Except for Ravi, that was a very silly question. I'm coming to your house and kicking you now.
Ravi, I love the question. Keep writing to us like this. We love it. But guys, thank you so much. And I hope you have... you've taken away a little more than what I have taken away, because I'm still grappling with the thought of everything being in your head and just feeling the characters and having nothing on paper. It's a thought that the Capricorn logical person in me is just not understanding as of now, but this is definitely something I want to think over. Maybe it's time to let go and just feel it.
Just give up control. Seriously,
give up control.
I know it sounds like the easiest thing to do, but
it's very difficult.
It is the most difficult thing to do.
I cannot give up control. I'm a control freak.
Especially in the modern world, because we've been taught that you have to have control. You have to be like tough and take charge. There are some parts in your life where you have to take charge and be tough. But if you're doing something creative, just.
So guys, for the budding writers
who are
writing fiction, give up control. I will stick to non-fiction.
You are in control of this conversation.
No, I was not. You were in control of this conversation entirely. But thank you so much, Amish. It was so much fun. And thank you so much for Don't forget the reading list.
I will not. I will
Like
not.
we said, we have it on camera and we shall send it to you. Thank you again.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for all this, and back soon. Remember, we are reading The Sapiens. Don't forget.